In August 1962, the world was stunned by the death of Marilyn Monroe at age 36. Hollywood had lost an icon, but the officially concluded cause of death hid a dark secret. According to the haunting revelations of Frank Sinatra, behind the mysterious death was a high-stakes game of power, a complex relationship with the Kennedy family, the explosive secrets she held, an injection, a clean method often associated with the mafia, all created a massive question mark. So, what is the truth? Has the public been deceived about Marilyn Monroe's death for over half a century? In the final months of her life, Marilyn Monroe lived in Brentwood, La, but everything changed on the night of August 4, 1962. Around 3 a.m., her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, knocked on Monroe's bedroom door, but heard no response. In a panic, Murray immediately called Monroe's psychiatrist, Ralph Greenson. He rushed to her house, became suspicious, and decided to climb through a window. When Greenson entered, he was devastated by the haunting sight. Marilyn Monroe was motionless on her bed, lifeless. A few minutes later, her personal physician, Hyman Engelberg, arrived and confirmed the legendary star had passed away. According to the autopsy report, Monroe died between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. from barbiturate poisoning. Her blood contained chloral hydrate and pentobarbital, and her liver also showed high levels of pentobarbital. Next to her bed, empty pill bottles were scattered. Monroe's doctors admitted she had suffered from depression, lived in fear, and had attempted to use drugs. After ruling out foul play, Deputy Medical Examiner Thomas Ingucci was forced to issue the official conclusion. Marilyn Monroe's death was due to a probable overdose of barbiturate. However, not everyone believed this conclusion. Among Monroe's close friends, one man insisted there was something wrong with her death. Frank Sinatra, her close friend. For Sinatra, he never accepted the explanation the press promoted. He believed it was a crime and that Marilyn was harmed by someone. Tonio Pedicano, Sinatra's former manager, revealed in his memoir, Sinatra and Me in the Way Small Hours, that this doubt stayed with him until the end of his life. Contrary to common speculation, the relationship between Sinatra and Monroe was a loving and respectful friendship. Sinatra admired Marilyn's beauty and sense of humor, but he also understood she was too fragile and emotional to give up on a forbidden love. Because of this trust, Monroe chose Sinatra to confide in with her deepest secrets, including her brief but dangerous relationship with brothers John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy when she was coldly dumped. Monroe once cried to Sinatra, confessing her confusion and despair. Notably, just days before her death, Marilyn stayed at the Calver Lodge by Lake Tahoe, which Sinatra Monroe confided that she was planning a press conference the following week to announce her reunion with her ex-husband Joe D. But that news simultaneously sparked a dangerous rumor. In a moment of high emotion, Marilyn might inadvertently reveal sensitive details about the Kennedy family. There were accounts that, before appearing on stage, Monroe had been intimate with Robert Kennedy in her dressing room, and they feared this would embarrass the nation. Sinatra didn't believe she would betray the Kennedys. He maintained that Monroe still had feelings for John. But the mere existence of the press conference worried many powerful people, and so the press conference never happened. After Monroe's tragic death, Sinatra received chilling information from his lawyer, Mickey Rudin. She didn't simply pass away from an overdose. She might have been given a dose of medication directly into her body, a clean method often associated with the underworld. Whispers even mentioned Robert Kennedy as a shadow lurking in a dark, unreleased script. That rumor echoed among the inner circle of mob boss Sam Giannana and haunted Sinatra for the rest of his life. At his vacation home in Palm Springs on long nights with Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin, Sinatra often brought up Marilyn, recounting fragmented memories like a man who never got over the pain of losing a true friend. It wasn't until more than 2 decades after Sinatra's death that Tony Pedicano decided to reveal these stories, not just to show the public a different Sinatra, the man behind the legendary spotlight, but also to stir up a question that has never been answered. Why did Marilyn Monroe die? Or was she the victim of a dark conspiracy that the world is still hiding? To clarify this, we need to know about the relationship between Marilyn and the Kennedy brothers, the dramatic relationship between Monroe and the Kennedys. Although Marilyn Monroe's tragic death was officially recorded, a veil of doubt still surrounds it. Persistent rumors about Monroe's connection to President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, have made the case one of the 20th century's greatest mysteries. Monroe's private life was already tumultuous. 3 failed marriages, bouts of depression, a regular habit of using pills, and notably rumors of a love triangle with both Kennedy brothers. Suspicion escalated after Monroe's sultry "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" performance for John F. Kennedy in May 1962, a moment that sent the world into a frenzy. In 2010, a rare photo taken by White House photographer Cecil Stoughton at the home of film executive Arthur Krim was unexpectedly released. This is the only known picture showing Monroe standing next to one of the Kennedy brothers. Biographer James Spader asserts that actor Peter Lawford introduced Monroe to John Kennedy in 1954. While there is no conclusive evidence that the Kennedys caused Monroe's tragedy, it's very clear Marilyn had affairs with both Jack and Bobby when the president grew tired of her. Monroe was allegedly transferred to his brother, like a toy, in the spring of 1962. One witness even spoke of an audio tape eavesdropped in Monroe's home on that fateful night. The voice of Peter Lawford, an angry Bobby Kennedy and a desperate Monroe. In a 1983 interview, Monroe's housekeeper hinted at a cover-up, even directly referencing Bobby Kennedy's presence on August 4. What's puzzling is that the initial investigation team never questioned key figures: Murray Pat Newcomb, Monroe's publicist, Lawford, or anyone from the Kennedy family. Journalist Anthony Summers claims this was a major flaw, making the investigation an incomplete picture. Later, some of the people involved unexpectedly received important positions. Pat Newcomb, for instance, got a job at the U.S. Information Agency after spending time with the Kennedy family in Hyannis. Seymour Hersh, in his book, The Dark Side of Camelot, 1997, also described Monroe as a potential ticking time bomb who could threaten the president's image. Meanwhile, a former Secret Service agent, Jerry Blaine, admitted to witnessing Kennedy meeting with Monroe. Even Joe Diageo, her second husband, was haunted by the news. He believed the Kennedys were responsible, arguing they contributed to her mental breakdown. According to Dr. Rock Positano, Diageo even believed they harmed her, but he remained silent to prevent a national crisis. In 2022, Netflix released a documentary, The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe, The Unheard Tapes, which used unreleased recordings from Anthony Summers. These tapes revealed a deliberate cover-up surrounding Monroe's relationship with the Kennedy brothers. Summers concluded, while there's no absolute proof of a murder, it's clear the truth about Monroe's death was hidden, and the Kennedys were at the center of that mysterious curtain. Public reaction to Marilyn's death. The sudden death of Marilyn Monroe immediately became global news, spreading across the U.S. and dominating European headlines within hours. On the morning of August 5, 1962, major newspapers simultaneously ran headlines: Marilyn Monroe, dead at 36. In New York City, the New York Times and Daily News sold out within hours, with people gathering at cafes, bus stops, and stores to discuss the news. In Paris, London, Rome, and Tokyo, newspapers described a stunned public, with many crying openly on the streets after hearing the news on the radio. Artists, intellectuals, and politicians also quickly expressed their views. French poet and director Jean Cocteau saw Monroe's death as a cautionary tale. It is proof of the price to be paid when the world turns a human being into an idol. In the UK, Laurence Olivier, who worked with Monroe in The Prince and the Showgirl, admitted he felt remorse as the pressure from the film industry and media had contributed to her despair. Director Joshua Logan, who was close to Monroe while filming Bus Stop, sadly confessed that Hollywood took too much from her and gave her nothing back but loneliness and depression. On August 8, 1962, Monroe's funeral was held at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. The ceremony was quietly arranged by Joe Diageo, her ex-husband, who always considered Monroe his only love, along with Marilyn's half-sister, Bernice Baker, Miracle, and manager Inz. About 30 of her closest friends attended, including Lee Strasberg, Monroe's acting coach, and a few close friends from the industry. But outside the cemetery gates, thousands of fans had gathered. They brought roses, portraits, and even Marilyn dolls to pay their respects. Many women cried while men stood in silent reverence, bowing their heads as the casket passed. Reporters clamored, but Joe Diageo enforced strict control. No Hollywood stars were allowed to speak, and notably, he banned the entire Kennedy family from attending. The casket, covered in white and yellow roses, was lowered into Crypt 24 in the Corridor of Memories. Joe Diageo stood silently by the grave, and for the next 20 years, he faithfully sent 3 red roses to Monroe's final resting place ever.